Parrots? I've eaten a hot dog.
Oh, you better not eat my parrot.
Kalapati ba? Masarap, di ba?
Eh,
Yan.
nag-upo.
Yan ang ilan namin.
What are you guys doing? Playing board games?
Di man sa kaabot.
Gusto na siya.
Bakit? Ano yun?
Sa hotel mo.
Oh,
Gusto na siya. Lamig. Saan na mga bata?
he needs a blanket. Rizzo.
Coach, I want, blanket.
Put a coat on him or something.
Maraming experience. Malaman natin dito maraming experience.
You have a lot of
Pero
experience.
ang pinaka-useful
You have a lot of experience.
You have so many stories to tell.
Yeah.
pinaka-useful ba yung gamot na sinabi niya?
Yun ba?
You have so
When
many
I was
stories
in
to
the
tell.
Marines, when I was in the military,
You're a military also?
yeah, I was in the military in the 1980s. When I was in the military,
They don't know what happened to you.
there was a monkey that was about this tall.
Hmm.
You know, one of the things we used to tell people, this is when I was in Nicaragua, do not shine your flashlights up in the trees. Because
Why?
if you do, they will become angry and they will jump down. And they will tear you apart.
Oh.
One guy shined his flashlight
Flashlight.
up in the tree. That monkey jumped down, bit his
Discover
face.
his face?
Let's put it this way. So unrecognizable.
Oh.
Took his 70-pound backpack, just ripped it to shreds. This
Wow.
monkey only stood this tall.
Is it
This
chimpanzee?
tall.
Chimpanzee?
And then one night when we were all sleeping, one of the monkeys came into the barracks, and one of these monkeys, only this tall, was going through one guy's hair because they like to eat
Yeah.
bugs and insects and things. So the guy in our battalion, he was the real big, huge, monster-sized guy. He's like 7'2", weighs about 350 pounds, you know, solid muscle. Had this mop. Tried to hit the monkey with the mop.
What kind of monkey is that?
Huh?
What kind of monkey? There's.
I don't know because I'm not do I look like a monkey expert? He was only stood about
Someone to
this
tell you
tall
also
on
that
his
one,
feet.
yeah?
The monkey was on his feet about this tall.
Okay.
And the guy,
Kwentohang brother Jim.
but the guy, listen though, but the guy in the
Yeah,
belly,
I'll
he was
listen.
like 7'2" tall, like a 340-pound, maybe like an NFL linebacker or something. And he went to hit the monkey with the mop. The monkey caught the mop, ripped it out of his hands, started hitting him with it, and to make a long story short, when the monkey left, he left on his own time when he wanted to leave. Because none of us could do anything. But I didn't think that a monkey, you know, that small, was that strong. But
Grabe, laki tao
to
din
take
yung
a
nagawa ng ano eh.
40-pound,
7'2"?
7'2" man and whip the daylights out of him. You know, with that mop, it was so hilarious and funny. Back in those days, we didn't have video cameras. If we did, that would have been hilarious to watch. It was funny. I mean, because this guy was like 7'2", but nearly in tears and crying, you know, because the monkey was whipping him.
Where did it happen?
With the
America?
mop.
Where did it happen? In America? Nicaragua?
Nicaragua.
Where did it happen?
In Nicaragua.
In Nicaragua?
One of
Yeah.
their barracks.
We weren't even supposed to be there to begin with, but
Then
we
why are
had to
you
go there
there?
because of President Reagan's orders. But anyways, one of the first things we learned was don't shine your flashlights up into the trees, you know, at night. That makes them angry.
Ito yung anak niya na yung asawa na.
But
Babae.
also too, we found out the strength.
So it's a lesson
Even
learned
though
na
they're
daw
small,
pag nasa lugar ka ng mga
they're
unggoy,
strong, man.
din nasa puno ka, huwag mong i-ano daw yung may flashlight ka, huwag mong tawag nito, i-on yung flashlight kasi siguradong
Candy.
Susugurin ka ng mga unggoy.
Start whipping him with it. Monkey was whipping him with the broomstick.
Oo?
Yeah. So when the monkey left, he left on his own terms, on his own
Should
time.
have bought a gun.
But
Is that your own story?
that's a real story.
Yung ano daw, story ng
Oo.
sila.
But in Nicaragua and in Vietnam and places like that in Central America, Central area where you have lots of monkeys, you do not shine them up into the tree lights. Even here in Nagoya, there was a monkey that I laughed until I cried. There was a monkey about this tall, stole this ice cream from this
Sungguhon
child.
na yan.
This is in Nagoya, downtown Nagoya.
Spoken dollars mo na itong bisita diri.
Stole it from the child. The mother she had one of these big purses, started hitting that monkey over the head with that purse. That monkey took her purse and ran with the ice cream and her purse. Ran away. So she lost her purse, she lost the ice cream. Happened in Nagoya. I laughed until I cried.
Di ba uso yan sa mga Vietnam, di ba? Na yung mga,
Nangagaw.
nangaagaw ng mga yung mga
There's
unggoy.
monkeys here in Namazu too, at Kanuki Mountain,
Oh, meron din pala dito sa
Yeah.
Yan lang ako sa ano ko eh.
and boars.
Even in the falls, what you call
Boars. 7 Hama. Yeah, there's monkeys.
Nawala na magdagdag yan. Try natin.
But if you ever see one, don't ever shine a light in
Ay, naka-off.
its face.
I-off natin.
It'll tear you to shreds.
But in the Philippines, monkey, they want always banana. And they always want to
They want their head scratched.
Yeah.
But I guess it depends on the type of. Maybe those monkeys
Yeah,
are more
there's,
domesticated
There's aggressive
I think
monkey
so.
or something.
around.
Yeah.
These are jungle monkeys.
Support na sa ano?
And there was another man too, so that in Nagoya too.
In Philippines,
Monkeys
monkey are
went
so
in the
good.
store. This was on the news. The monkeys went into the stores. This was during the summertime when it was real hot. They had the doors open. The monkeys robbed the candy aisle. That was funny. And watching the cashier run and chase after the monkeys down the street. That was even more funny. That happened a few years ago in Nagoya.
Nakita kami naman na isip
Nagoya is a cool place to go during summertime to watch, see those wild monkeys. But I haven't seen any wild bears, but I did run into a skunk once. It was a mama skunk, had babies too. But I ran as fast as I could, I got away from that. I was like from here to where that window is,
Daming kwento pala
from
dito.
the skunks.
What tell to them what happened to your friend during
When I was working with the airline?
Yeah.
You working also in the airline company?
Yeah, I was an airline mechanic in 1990. I was
Ang
brought
daming
in.
trabaho rin to, ano?
Ano nga yung ulo niya na ano yun?
What happened to your head?
I don't know if I can find a picture right away, but
Yeah, you have?
I have
Nagbabaka din sa Tokyo ngayon, hindi na.
Talagang namin yung ulo niya.
Eh, pastor,
Inaabot ng ilis eh.
ano yung pastor?
I had the whole left side of my skull from here over completely reconstructed. They took a bone from the right side of my skull out, replaced my left cheekbone. I have titanium steel that runs from here all the way through. I have titanium steel that runs through here, and I have titanium steel that runs through my nose as well too. So the whole left side of my skull is all titanium steel.
It's good for you that you can speak clearly.
Huh?
It's good for you that you can speak clearly, that you have a steel in your face.
Yeah, But the biggest thing from that is that according to all medical sciences, I shouldn't even be here.
Yeah.
Ay, oo, yung matanda.
And I had to relearn how to walk, talk, read, and write all over
Yeah,
again.
because it
Just like
totally
a baby.
damaged your skull, right?
You don't even look like you've been there.
But that's
Yeah.
where they got the idea for the movie Face Off,
Ah.
is from me. Because what the doctor did is he actually cut this way across, took my face, I saw the video
Nandito ka
of
na.
how they did the
Nandito
surgery.
ka na.
Oh.
Took my face off and they put the metal all
Bagay talaga sa
inside.
kanya yung ano, R1.
He saw the x-rays,
Oo,
Yeah.
so he knows
Naman
the
niya sa
fact.
pinakita niya sa
Wala
X-ray.
nawala yung mga butas-butas.
Tinanggal daw talaga yung buong mukha
And the
niya.
operation lasted for 18 hours.
Tinanggal yung mukha niya.
Tapos rin-reconstruct
Yung parang yun dun sa ano, yung sa face off na palabas.
Reconstruct yung
Oo.
For 18
Tinanggal yung
hours.
mukha niya, tapos tsaka daw pinaglalagay yung mga titanium steel sa ilong, sa ganito,
Ano moisturizing?
sa ganun.
Yeah, it lasted for 18 hours
Ilang years
and
nagtatagal yung tape na yun? Pakita naman sa kanya.
it costed $1.5 million.
18 hours daw bago yung operasyon, Pastor. 18 hours.
How about the titanium steel?
How many years could be
How does it last long?
long? The titanium.
Ah,
How would it last?
yeah.
When did it happen?
No. How long it will last?
The titanium.
I hope it'll last the rest of my life, I hope.
Maybe.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
It's titanium steel.
it's titanium steel.
Matagal tayo pastor. Kasi titanium steel talaga. Yung totoong, yung
Titanium steel.
pinakamatigas.
The one thing,
pinakamatigas
yeah,
na
but this has saved my life twice probably within my lifetime. Because in 2005 I got assaulted by 2 Japanese men. And basically I was beaten so bad, even my own son didn't even recognize who I was. But I was lucky they only did the left side of my face,
Which is the
which is the
Yeah.
side that was had the
But you look
titanium.
like there's no operation happen.
I have the scar though still that goes across my head.
Hindi
Here.
kasi tinanggal daw kasi.
Oh,
Dito
yes.
sa mukha, dito sa ulo kasi.
You know, from here. Oh.
Tinanggal daw kasi.
Oh.
Tinanggal,
All the way
kaya
across.
pala hindi natin,
I see.
kaya
All
pala
the way
hindi
across.
natin kita yung
That's
mga,
why we did not
yung mga
this
mga piglet sa
here.
kanto. Kasi,
We done here.
etong
Yeah,
simula
they
dito sa
cut
taas,
there and then they peeled my
Hindi
face.
ganun talaga?
tinanggal lahat talaga yung mukha.
Oo.
Ito bro,
And they put it back.
Tama,
Ano ba, Pastor?
di ba, tinanggal lahat yung mukha niya. Nung tinanggal na lahat ng mukha niya, tsaka yung,
Dinagyan ng mga
tsaka
titanium.
pinaglalagyan ng ano, tas tsaka ulit ibinalik yung mukha niya.
Binalik.
Kaya
Kasi
yung,
balat lang yun.
kaya yung ito, wala tayong makitang peklat sa ano.
Okay lang.
Malamang yung sa mga ganito.
Tama ka no? Kasi dito ang tahi yan sa ulo nyo. Dito.
Pero, hirap ano?
Hirap nga kasi yung...
Yung parang sa pelikula ng face off.
Natin tinong yung ganito niya dito.
Hindi na ano, hindi na original.
May ano, meron siyang peklat sa ganito.
Yung pink soap ba? Minsan-minsan lang.
Ayun,
Pero, ano, hindi ba nagkinakalawang yung titanium?
Hindi po.
Ay, hindi, Pastor. Ano kasi yan yung...
Titanium.
This is me.
Ah, I see. So this part of the cheek, back of the skull.
That's ano,
Dito.
X-ray.
Yeah, the whole left side and
Nangi ako ng toner.
So how the operation goes? They remove the skin of your face totally?
The whole face.
hold on.
Ang hirap na dito. Tanggalin.
Tanggal.
Tanggal yung mga
Para ka nagbalik ng ahas.
Kaya nga, di ba?
Balat na lang ito eh.
Yung hiwa mo,
Balat-
hiwa mo sa ganito.
Oh.
Sa
Parang yung ano,
What is your question?
How the operation goes? The doctor remove the skin of your face?
Yeah, and he also took my left eye out because my left eye,
tinanggal din yung
there is no tendon on the left side of my left eye. There's no tendon.
walang yung laman na humahawak doon sa eyeballs.
So they had to reset my left eye, and they took a bone from the right side of my skull and they
Panapal
replaced
dito.
my cheekbone here.
Panapal dito.
Oh?
So, but the operation
Tapos,
took 18 hours and
Di ganun
It
na nangyari
costed
sa kanya.
one-
Nabugbog na naman siya.
$1.5 million.
Nabugbog na naman siya ng mga...
What's that? The
Buti na lang
total
daw.
fee for the...
Ang nakuha sa kanya,
For all
itong may
the-
For the total operation?
itong bakal na sa kanya. Dito daw
Yeah.
siya
But at 27
Hindi na
years
pala
old,
nakasama namin dito kasi na-remove pala lahat ng skin niya sa sa mukha.
Bakit ito ginawa nila?
Kasi may operation sa dito, may
but at 27 years old, I had to relearn everything how just the same way as a baby does. I had to relearn how to walk, talk, read, and write. And in fact, they had called all of my
So,
family
this,
members.
ang kwento nito is very
And they
interesting.
gave all of my family members that I had 0% chance of living, 0% chance
Yeah,
that
because
I
you-
would ever.
Because it's hard, you know, like-
Tinamay kita niya, man.
Well, that's all the learning side.
Mm.
So they said I had 0% chance to begin with of living, 0% chance I would ever walk, talk, read, or write again. But for some reason, I just never gave up. But the funny thing is I'm not sure exactly what day it was, but I was only in the hospital for 10 days. But during that time period, there was this nurse that came in, and I have to be honest, the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my whole entire lifetime. And at the time, I had a catheter, put in. To make a long story short, I started screaming for her to take that catheter out. I think you guys know why. So, but then she left.
Maybe you're shy, you know.
No, but then no. Then she left. After taking out the catheter, she left my room. But later on as my recovery progressed, I went to the front desk to find out who she was. Nobody knew. So then I put ads in, after I got my settlements and everything else from the airlines.
Yung nagtanggal ng catheter
I
sa
put
wala doon
put it in the newspapers, on the TVs,
doon sa hospital. Wala.
everything to try to find out who this lady was.
Wala.
So you keep on
Nobody-
asking.
Nobody knew. Because from that period on, from the moment that she left the room, my recovery process started beginning.
Maybe injury.
I think, I don't
That's an
think
angel.
maybe, I think she was
Yeah.
an angel.
Yeah.
I think so.
Wow.
Because,
At least you have
The newspapers, the
experience an
TVs,
angel
nobody
picking up
could
your
find
card.
this
Yeah.
lady whatsoever.
Yeah. And you know, biblically,
An angel
the angel,
cutting up your
They don't
catheter, you
look
know.
for recognition.
yeah, in the Bible, they told that the angels, they are beautiful, handsome.
Yeah, like a cherub.
They are perfect.
Right.
Uh,
And this woman was perfect in every
Yeah.
detail.
Like
Well,
what you have said.
at least you experience an angel picking off your catheter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you dated,
I wouldn't
like you
put
dated
it
so many
that
girls,
way.
beautiful girls.
I would put it this way that the recovery process actually
So yung kwento niya
started
talagang yung parang
getting
interesting.
faster
Kasi kunikwento niya yung buhay niya.
than by all the laws of science, medical science, says I shouldn't be here to begin with, number one. Number two, I shouldn't be able to read, write, walk, talk. And on top of that, I had double vision. I still have double vision. even now.
Until now.
That's why I have these special glasses.
Ah.
But I have double vision.
Kaya hindi niya.
And then
That's
I
why
had
I'm trying to
I
ask you
had
about
to
your
learn, relearn which was real, which was false. And I cut my hand so many times it wasn't funny because I didn't know which knife was real and which one wasn't.
Dalawang paningin
But how I learned to beat that is my sister who was living with me at the time, she told me that I used to play billiards. I said, okay, well, I'll give it a try. So I started playing billiards again, at this laundry room. And then I finally realized, oh, this ball is wrong, this one's right. So I learned everything to the left is real, everything to the right, everything to the right is real, everything to the left is false. So that's how I got past that. So then, my mouth was locked shut, and the physical therapist, she had to literally put her fingers inside my mouth and blow each time, and it hurt so bad I had tears running down my eyes, and she didn't want to do it anymore. And she gave me two choices: give up or whatever.
Keep on going.
You keep on going. I said, yeah, my goal is to eat a Big Mac. She goes, okay, well, you get to that point where you can eat a Big Mac, then we'll stop. And I said, that's fine with me. But I got to that point, and then, you know, I even after that, I went to the same airline school where I went to. And one of the first things that the students asked me was if I suffered any kind of emotional trauma from it. And I explained to them, I said, no, the only thing that happened was when I had realized I had lost my favorite job. That's what bothered me the most. Because I made $64,000 a year as an airline mechanic. I had an excellent life. You know. Then, you know, when my family, this is true, when my family members found out I was suing the airlines, you know, when I was suing the airlines, they started asking me crazy things like, when you gonna buy me a house? When you gonna buy me a car? When you gonna buy me this? When you gonna buy me that?
Laki niyan, Pastor.
Yeah?
$64,000.
3,000, di ba? 3,000 dollars is 30 kalapad.
But
3,000 lang.
Sa kanya, 64,000.
But
A year.
the question I asked them was, where were you when I needed help?
Yeah.
So all of the money that I got from the airlines, it made them madder than blankety blank. I'm not even gonna say the word.
Sugarcoating.
I gave all the money away
How?
Seriously?
to homeless
Charity.
shelters for battered women,
For charity.
and
Everything?
yeah, everything. I only got one little thing for myself. That's when I went back to college,
You
and
go back to college.
you know, but my thing throughout my whole life, and like I said, my grandmother was the one that raised me. She was a Christian all her life, and so a lot of that reflected on my life. I was never a money-hungry idiot. I could have lived for the rest of my life and
If you're
lived
gonna
like a
take
king,
those money
but that wasn't my
thing.
thing. So I gave it away, but my family kind of disowned me after that.
Probably they get
But
disappointed.
except for my best friend. My best friend stood by my side, and only one sister who's not really a flesh and blood sister, but only one sister that took care of me at that time. She was a big encouragement and a big influence in my life.
Your sister.
She's not a flesh and
not-
blood
not
by
actually a
DNA,
sister.
but someone I consider to be my sister.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing of it is God put these people in my life at the time that I needed them.
They
When I
stay,
needed
they stay with you.
And, you know, I still to this day, none of me believe this, but I know what I'm supposed to be doing for God, and I've even mentioned this to him. I've been running from it for 20-something years because I feel that, number one, I don't want that responsibility, because if I ever give anybody wrong information, that person could lose their salvation.
Yeah.
Forever. And for me, that's a scary situation to be put in. And it's something that I don't want. God may catch me one of these times and put me in the position where I have no choice, but until then, I've been running from that for a very long time. And there were 3 different ministers, and I'll never forget it for as long as I live, from different, not just the same states, because usually in the same states the ministers know each other. We have 50 states, so these were 3 different people from different areas that had actually confirmed the same thing. I finally understood them, because I have survived through so many things. That's not the only thing that's happened to me. I've been hit by cars, I've been dragged underneath cars, and recently, like almost 2 weeks ago or so, I was dragged underneath a semi-truck on Route 1. How I
2 weeks
got
ago?
out of that, I don't even know. But
Malapit ito disgrasya itong ano.
But, you know, the point I'm getting at is, like, and even like when I got in the accident, when someone hit me here in Namazo has the worst drivers.
Yes.
I think it was when I met him, I had 3 broken ribs, I had a punctured liver,
You
and
told me.
hematoma on my liver, 5 centimeters in size. You know, I've survived through so many things that all medical sciences says I shouldn't be here. Even my own kids, you know. But my own kids, you know, this was before I came to Japan, a lot of things I had survived through. But the kids that I adopted, I rescued from a very violent house that I adopted. So I think that was the reason why that God had brought me to Japan, was to save these 2 kids. Well, actually 3 kids. But I've never been one to take things from other people, you know. And then recently, myself, I understand my kids' position now, because, like, I went through the same exact thing for 11 months where I worked at Eon through domestic violence, DV for 11 straight months. So I understand why my kids don't talk or don't say anything or don't do this and don't do that. You know, as a person, we can say we understand things, but until it actually happens, we really don't. That's the truth. And
If you don't wear the same shoes as I am, you don't know the whole truth. That's the thing.
yeah, you know. And so every morning when I wake up, first thing that comes out of my mouth, very first thing, good morning, Lord.
Yeah.
When I go to bed,
Yeah.
I also say the same thing.
Yeah.
Good night, Lord.
Yeah, that's a good
I
thing.
don't try to play a pretend life. I think it's something that you have to live every single day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every millisecond of the day. But the point I'm getting at, as far as out of this, like what he was bringing up, is, you know, it's what you give. That's what matters most.
Yeah.
Not what you get.
Yeah, yeah.
This is the time of season where all the kids in there go, well, look, sister, my present's bigger than yours. You know, and that's how we grew up as kids in America, you know.
Yeah.
Even in the
Malaki
It
Philippines.
became very materialistic.
Yeah.
It's not a life I like.
Yeah.
You know, when I was in Davao, when I was dating the girl there, they had nothing there. They had only chickens, cows, and
But they have
coconut trees, you know.
Banana.
but you know, but the point I'm getting at is they had absolutely nothing, but
They're happy.
they were happy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Brother Leonard so very happy in the Philippines. He umakyat sa
Yeah, he's
Climb
climbed
the
tree.
yeah, climbed
Yeah,
the coconut
climb to
tree.
the coconut tree and then
Yeah,
Coconut,
make
banana.
it a coconut oil.
yeah.
So for how many years before he came to
came to
Japan?
That is job in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Because
so-
in Philippines, it's a simple life, you know. Simple life. Not like in
Yeah,
America.
Well, and the other thing too, you know, we were doing things the old way as I used to do with my grandma, you know, when I was there washing clothes by hand.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Not like in
you know. And,
Japan using washing machine.
but the weather was free. I mean, you know, it was actually probably the happiest times for me.
In Davao?
Yeah, compared to here, it's
Oh, that's
so
good. That's
stressful.
good.
It's like I'm surprised I don't have a heart attack already.
Yet.
You know, in Davao,
Don't say yeah, please don't say that word.
in Davao, there's so many Japanese people.
Sabi, pasalamat
Oh,
daw siya,
yeah,
hindi
yeah.
pa siya nag-atake sa puso. Sabi ko, ngayon, hindi
Because
pa.
they know, they found that
Maybe one day.
Napunta
Maybe
na-
tomorrow.
Nabangga na ng truck.
Safe.
Napunta na sa ilalim ng truck. Napunta
Oh.
na sa ilalim ng sasakyan.
Hindi pa na.
Ginulpi pa ng ilang beses na hapon.
It's like, you know, when I was in Davao too, I would see these 90-year-old men walking down the street, you know, talking to each other like, you know, today's just another day,
Yeah.
you know. Well, you don't see that here in Japan.
Yeah.
In Davao, I saw in a video, the Japanese pick the garbage in the sidewalk, and then the government of Davao recognized him
Because he was picking up the
because they
garbage.
pick on the garbage. Yeah.
Because
Like he was
there's
doing
a
their
kind of
job.
tradition,
Yeah.
a attitude here in Japan, like
Yeah,
put it, get in the garbage.
yeah.
Sometimes they go to some place, then they pick up the garbage. Then they do it in the Philippines. Then the government recognize, oh, this is a foreigner, but you know, they picking up the garbage.
I was always taught that if you see something, pick it up. And the other thing that I still don't do to this day, and it's probably since I was 17 years old, I've never done this, and that's throw stuff on the ground. Because I believe this is God's planet, and I believe that it's my right to keep it clean and not to dirty it
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
Yeah.
So my kids, you know, would always say, "Why, Dad, why don't you throw it on the ground?" I'm like, "No, no, 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 no." You know, and I'm not that kind of person because I believe in keeping what I have clean. You know, this is God's planet. I don't own it.
yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't belong to me.
So it's like you're just protecting the
I'm doing, yeah. I'm
Mm.
kind of like a watchkeeper over,
Yeah, that's good to hear.
you know, over what he's doing. I think Ezekiel played the same thing. You know, he was a watchkeeper as well too.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, and so
May pa sila ka.
God is
Galo pa sila. Si Mama?
God is a wonderful God, but the thing that I always wonder through my own mind, yeah, I've been running. I'm not gonna lie about it.
Yeah.
But the door only stays open for so long. When is God gonna
Yes.
shut it on me? But once it's shut, it's shut. I can't open it no matter
Yes,
how
no,
hard I
no
try.
one could open it.
So, you know,
It's like the time of Noah. Okay, it's not Noah who shut the door. It's God who shut the door of the ark.
right, exactly.
That's why no one could
Open it or
open
close
the
it.
door. Yeah, because it's God who closed the door.
Yeah, so for that specific calling that God that wants me to do this, it's just a matter of when I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still running from it because, like I said,
Mm.
I'm terrified. I'm the exact opposite. I met a young man. He was in his 20s, and this is serious. He's had the zeal, had the fire, had everything going. You know, that was his desire, was to preach. He had the opposite from what I have. I don't have that zeal or that fire because I don't want to tell somebody wrong.
Yeah, it's a biblical because if we deliver a message, the wrong message, it's our liability.
Yeah.
But once in yourself, you know it, the truth, and okay, you could share it boldly.
But like one friend of mine who is my number one best friend, like he said to me, he said, Jim, he said, when God's ready for you, you're gonna know it.
Yeah, there's always a perfect time, you know. So
And,
even me, So since elementary, my grandfather always told me, okay, you could come to me and be with me in a Bible study, and then I don't mind it. But after I came in Japan, I have so several accident. Then why still God allowing me to live in this world? Then I found, yeah, you have a purpose, Lord. So be
That's
it.
the number one biggest question is why? I
Yeah.
think people ask that question more than any other question to God.
Mhm.
If there's any question that I think God hears the most, is the word why.
What?
Why me?
Like what you've experienced in your life. Like why did it happen to me?
Well, I mean, there's many different things that we might say. Why did it happen to me? Well, why did my grandmother have to die?
Mm.
Why,
Yeah.
I think, but that word why, if you think about the definition and meaning, it has to do with doubt.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah,
doubt.
that's true.
It's a
You
doubt.
read that
Like,
Every time,
because
mentioned about last
because
week.
you question, right?
every time you ask why,
It's doubt.
Doubt. Yeah.
If you have no
Biblical.
doubt, you wouldn't ask that question.
Yeah.
That even Job did not
Like,
ask
would
God
know.
why.
it's the same thing. Like you're not contented. You're not.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're not believing.
It's a like a doubt, but it's not a real doubt, but it's
It's the
second.
same.
Yeah.
Along the same lines.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fake. We could say it's a fake doubt.
Well, yeah, but I think that's number one. But number two, I think the second thing is we always ask, how? How could it
because,
happen to me?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we try to find things how to resolve the
Yeah,
problem.
We try to find some kind of scientific or
Yeah.
other explanation for the occurrence.
Sometimes we always blaming God why it happening to me and how I could.
That was one thing, that was one thing I never did, even throughout the time when I was caught in the propeller, laying in the hospital, going through all the things. I never did complain.
Questioning God.
I never did question God and ask
Really?
why.
Oh.
Really. I knew the reason.
Yeah, of course. If you know
I've
the
been
reason,
running
you did
for
not ask
from
why.
it for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
It's better to stop
So yeah,
running.
it's good for you. It's good for you that
So
you
I fell
don't
into
try
the
to
same
question
pattern
God,
because
right?
I already knew why, because God had called
Usapang
me to
ano
do
naman to.
Yeah.
this thing, and I'm
Yung-
ignoring what He's doing, and He's getting my attention.
Yes.
So even into my own family members, they said, "How do you? Why do you?" keep-"
Sometimes God allow those
Those things happen.
circumstances
Yeah.
to our lives in order that God wants to know us that, hey, I have a plan for you. Hey.
Try to
And
discipline you, I think.
sometimes God will discipline us.
Yeah, and there's another thing that, like, when I was going through physical therapy, learning how to read, write, walk, and talk all over again. There was a man, I'll never forget him in physical therapy. He was basically complaining at me. Why do you keep trying to do all the stuff you're doing? Why don't you just sit back in a wheelchair for the rest of your life and collect that money? Looked at him and I'm saying to him, how is that life? How is that living? I think, in my opinion, if as long as you're able to try, you should try.
Yeah.
I mean, the more I got to thinking about it, if my family members would have came, it may have been the worst thing for me, because I would have had everything handed to me hand and foot. I wouldn't have had a reason to try. So God does things without us realizing why. So my family members were told, hey, you'll be dead before you get here. So they didn't bother coming. And then the other thing was, well, I was thinking to myself, well, and I had no complaints to God about why things happened, but I did say, "How come you guys didn't come to help me?" You know, when they were asking me for all these card houses and things like that. But when I got to thinking about it, I started thinking in reverse. Sometimes you have to think in reverse. What would have happened if they would have came? I was, oh, please give me some more coffee. Oh, please give me some more cake. You know, I wouldn't have tried. But it put me in a situation where I had no other choice but to try. So it was kind of like reverse psychology. And I learned something from it. And, you know, that man had the attitude, he wants to sit in a wheelchair for the rest of his life and collect that little income every month. But I didn't want that. I wanted my job back, so that's what I was shooting for. Was trying to go back to the airlines because I made a good living, you know. $64,000 a year is a lot to throw away. But, you know, and then I had 34 students ask me inside a classroom, you know, did you have any emotional trauma after that? And I said, no. I said, the only thing I was sad about was my favorite job was over. I can't do my favorite job anymore. And then the second question they asked me was, are you planning on giving up? And I said, no. So later on, then I applied to become an instructor. You know, because I could teach people what not to do. But, you know, we might complain, we might whine, we might cry, but there's always a reason, a hidden reason that we can't see why God puts us in those positions.
Yeah. There's always a reason for that.
There's always a reason, but we don't see it.
Yeah.
So that's why I stopped asking questions.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I know that there's a reason He put me there
Yeah.
to begin with.
So
Yeah.
there's a truth in the saying, just go with the flow.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, go with the flow. Go with whatever happens. So it's like when I wake up in the morning and I say, good morning, Lord. Wherever you lead me, that's fine. Whatever happens, that's fine.
So you always did that every day?
Every single day, I never forget.
Oh.
My kids hear me say that too.
Oh, good for you, man.
Yeah. My thing is if I can't set an example for my kids, how can I set an example for my neighbors?
Yeah.
I can't. You know, and at least the one thing that my kids have learned from me is to be strong.
Absolutely.
You know,
That whatever
to
happens,
face-
that
to
living in
face
this
whatever
world
may
is
come back. Yeah, if Dad has survived all of these things,
Yeah.
why can't I? You know, but I know people
Too
that smash their
strong that
hands,
sometimes he's right.
smash their hands with a hammer and their pinky, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to take the rest of the day off." You know, and that isn't the way you should look at life. I never have.
Well, this sometimes came to you that the being strong that you taught to your kids made you feel like you've been left alone. Did sometimes you feel that you felt left alone from teaching your kids about being strong?
Well, I think as of my case, you know, my case is different from most people. In 2014, my kids were kidnapped, and I never ever thought I would ever see them ever again. Took me 2 years to find them, locate them, and get them back.
Is that your real kids, or the one you abandoned? You.
All of my kids. That included all my kids,
Oh,
even
yeah.
the ones that are my biological kids. But anyways, the point I'm getting at is, I'll never forget this in a billion years. At the time we were living in Wakayama Prefecture in Kushimoto-cho, one of my best Christian friends. She is my sister, but she is also like a daughter to me. I've known her since she was 16 years old. And when I lost my kids that day, I actually walked out to the middle of the biggest bridge in Kushimoto, between Kushimoto and Oshima Island. I was in the middle of it. I was standing on the high wire, and believe it or not, I got a phone call. And it was from who is I call her my daughter, but
sister.
she's my sister, but I call her
Best
my daughter.
friend or
She's been my best friend, my sister, and my daughter all in one.
yeah.
So Christine asked me, how can I help? You know, and I was like, how in the world did she know what was going on? But God does things in mysterious reasons, and I was about ready to jump from that bridge
the
because
wire.
I wanted to kill myself because I thought for sure and knew for sure I would never see my kids again.
You're trying to end yourself.
And then, you know, she stopped me from jumping. And then she's the one that helped me, actually, she's the one that actually helped me locate and find my kids. It took 2 years to do everything. But I owe that girl my life, even though she was 16 years old then. I owe that girl everything.
Yeah, because at the age of 16, then she's trying to help you. It's a good attitude.
Well, we had been talking for a long time, and I had been like her, I guess, kind of like a mentor or second dad or whatever you want to call it. But we didn't really know each other physically, but by internet and by phone and by other things.
But she wanted to help you?
Yeah, and so God puts people in places at the right time. And so then I went back, I started having encouragement, so I decided, okay, I'm going to try to find my kids. I'm going to do whatever I can to find them and get them back. Found them. And to get them back, basically I had to go to the Supreme Court twice. And, but to make a long story short, if it wouldn't have been for God putting her on that phone call to me,
that right time.
my life would not be here now.
Yeah, maybe it's the end of your life, right?
Well, I know it would have been because I knew without any doubts I was going to jump. There was no ifs, buts, or anything. And, you know, but by the time that I got my kids back, to make a long story short, maybe none of you guys know what was going on. Their birth mother was highly, extremely abusive to them. I mean, she would hit, kick, punch, throw knives, you name it.
The biological mother.
Well, what she did is while I was at work, even though I had custody of the kids, I forgot about one thing. In America, when you get custody, or even through adoption, when they're adopted, they're yours forever. But in Japan, you have two things. Just because the kids are changed into your last name, that doesn't mean they are your kids.
Forever. Oh.
They have what's called a Toseki Tohon, a family registry. As long as her name is on my birth mother's name is on that family registry.
It's not belong to you, remember?
By
law.
Well, by Wakayama prefectural customary laws, not by legal laws, customary laws, the kids always go to the mom. So while I was at work, I came home to an empty house. You know, she had went to the police station, but at the police station there were only 2 police officers, and she lied to the police officers. and she took my kids. And so I had to take a 7-hour,
No, sa Japan, no?
I had to take a 6-hour train ride from Kushimoto to Wakayama Prefectural Police to show them that I had custody of the papers. Because Kushimoto Police said, Ida na yada, we don't want to see it. So then by that time, she was already gone with my kids.
Oh.
So your kids been kidnapped by their biological.
By their, yeah.
Then
Well, by
by the customs
by
law.
several of my kids' biological mother, but it didn't dawn on me about the Toseki Tohong, the family registry. I'd totally forgotten about that. So then, after Christine had helped me find my kids, then I had to go to the Supreme Court again a second time. This time I had to get the Toseki Tohon changed, get her name completely off it, put me listed as both mom and dad. That way she could never kidnap the kids again.
Okay lang kami.
Okay lang pa sir, okay lang.
Medyo.
Oh, okay lang pa sir.
So I did that, and you know,
At last.
but from these things, God taught me a lot of things about this country, about the customs, and also too that you may not believe this, but customs laws out trump legal laws.
Meron dito. Bawat prefecture may
May
mga kani-kani
May kanya
sa
talaga
custom.
mga patakaran na ano, mga
Custom. Pero pa yung national, yung talagang
buong in central na, sa Japan
na
talaga. Oo.
pakabuang batas.
Oo.
Meron pa sa mga ano yung mga
So Christine, you know, they even helped me find the lawyers. They found all the stuff for me, and so I had to go back to court, Supreme Court, all the way back to the Tokyo Supreme Court a second time. And I also sued Wakayama Prefecture at the same time because they broke the law. They wouldn't give me my documents from Wakayama Prefecture. Even though that I had signed for them myself, they still refused to give it to me, which is against the law. And so I sued the prefecture and won. And, you know, there was a lot of good that came out of that, but, you know, by the time I got my kids back, this was 2016. This is 2020. They still will not talk about what their birth mother did to them. My second oldest son was so bad that from 2016 to 2017, he spent 1 year in the hospital. He wouldn't eat, he wouldn't drink, he wouldn't do anything. He wanted to die. And my oldest daughter, still to this day, won't talk about what happened. My youngest daughter, my youngest daughter that is 13, she too will not. But what's funny is all of these kids, all three of these kids, they will not have a female teacher.
Oh, maybe because they're trauma, right?
They got traumatized.
They're traumatized because of what she did to them. And same thing with female counselors. They didn't want any female counselors, so I had to put them all in special schools, special teachers, all kinds of things. You know, now they're grown up and living life on their own, but if I wouldn't have gotten Shokado back when I did, he would have killed himself for sure. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. But now, he's a manager of McDonald's, and he was the youngest manager in Japan, and he goes to college at the same time as well too. He wants to be a banker. My 18-year-old daughter, she graduated nursing school. In fact, she was supposed to start nursing at the hospital, but of course, coronavirus came around and stopped that. But my 13-year-old daughter, she wants to be a fashion designer. But the three of my kids, Shotaro has an IQ of 140.
Oh.
Yuri and Leona
It's
have
very
an
high.
IQ of 135.
Above average.
And but Leona learns the fastest. I mean, anything you teach her, she learns in 5 minutes. She learned how to roller skate in 5 minutes. She learned how to swim in 5 minutes. She learned how to ice skate in 5 minutes.
Genius na eh.
So everything that I
Kasama niya ba niya Pastor?
So, let's put it this way. So I always had the challenge of teaching my kids new things to keep them from being bored. And on top of that, I would get 30 calls a day from their teachers. Jim, come to the school, you know. Like, 'cause they don't know how to handle these kind of kids. Japanese teachers just don't. But in turn,
Hindi pa sa mga Japanese yung
but
mga
in
niya?
turn, I've also,
Ay, yung mga totoong anak talaga niya.
but I've also at the same time never acted like the know-it-all dad. So in reverse, I've also
Learn
asked
from
my
them.
kids to teach me. And I've never seen parents in Japan do that. Japanese parents scold their
Never.
kids, so I mean really scold
Never.
their kids. And you know, I'm glad I don't do that. But you know, I try to, and I keep going back to this book, and I've mentioned it a billion times, the book of Job. I look at that man, he lost every single thing under the sun. Everything. But he still never cursed God.
Yes.
When I lost my kids, I almost lost my life, you know, by jumping off that bridge. But God put the person at the right place at the right time.
Oh, perfect time.
Perfect timing. There's never more better timing than God's timing.
Yeah.
We don't get things when we want.
Yes.
And the other word that he mentioned the other day that was just as important, in fact, he mentioned it again today, is patience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Without it, you'll never get anywhere in God. You can't keep saying, God, when are you going to give me this? When are you going to give it to me? When are you going to give it to me?
Keep on questioning God.
Yeah. That's the problem with people today.
Yeah.
Christian.
Oh, honey, why didn't I sent you an email? Why didn't you reply to me, right away? What's going on? You have a boyfriend? Yeah, I've actually had this happen when I was dating, like when I was dating a Filipino girl before, she's like, I replied to you at 7 o'clock this morning. How come you haven't replied back to me yet?
Yeah.
Because I'm busy working. Everything is...
I know that a lot of girls like that.
What? You want to play that game?
No. I knew a lot of girls like that.
Like I sent you a message this time. Why?
But I mean, even
If
when
you've
we are
been late-
communicating with God, we often do that.
Yeah.
Even
That's true.
if you've been late
If I'm a
10
Christian,
seconds
God,
replying.
why don't you do this for me? How come it's not here right now? And people walk around like that, and they're believing and thinking, no, I'm a Christian, yeah, I. There used to be a guy on the radio in America, and I used to laugh like crazy. He was called Reverend Ike. I'll never forget him forever. He would go, my name is Reverend Ike. My color
So
is
Reverend.
green. I'll get you a brand new house, new car. You can get it all through Reverend Ike, I'm thinking about it. And then my mind goes back to those big cathedrals and all the packed cathedrals and everything. Jesus never lived like that way. I always ask
Jesus.
myself one
Yeah.
Jesus.
would Jesus do this? And
In
if the
fact,
I get what
answer
you're trying to
is
say.
no, I don't do it.
Yes.
If the answer is yes,
Yeah, you
I
have
don't do it. If I think the answer is maybe, then I still don't do it. It's better to be safe than sorry. You know.
In fact, Jesus, for 33 years and a half, he living in this world in a simplest life. He did not
Yeah,
anything
yeah.
as I am your teacher or something. I need this, I need one, and you know, he always living in a simple way, and he always teach the good news, and that's all, because that's his purpose. You know, but you know, in this later part of this world, you know, there's a lot of pastors or some things are you know, they go beyond to what Jesus told, or the Great Commission. It's like soul winning and making disciples. That's it. Because you know, there's a lot of religion today asking for you know, money for charity, and then you go, you know, the
Yes,
pastors,
sad
reverend,
case.
bishop. You know, there's a lot of big. You know, there's in the Philippines, there's a you know, you see their lifestyle.
Right.
You know, and you saw the members. There's no food in their houses, and then there's no.
But the pastor
you know,
is so
But
rich.
the you know, pastors so very rich, and then
Yeah.
how could you?
Like one of the responses that Jesus made too, you know, that asked him, well, how many people are gonna enter the kingdom of heaven? You know, Jesus is like, well, you know, hey, you know, it's gonna be like this. This is the way it's going to be. It's gonna be hard to go through the eye of a needle and to enter into the kingdom of God.
There's a phrase that I remember when I watched The Passion of the Christ. Jesus said, a donkey has a better chance entering the kingdom of heaven than the rich man.
Yeah.
Because
It's a biblical.
there's one rich person that asked God, how will
The
I
friend of
enter?
Lazarus.
How will I
Was the
enter
friend
the
of
kingdom of
Lazarus.
God? And he
And the rich man. Yeah.
And Jesus said,
Sell
sell all your things.
Yeah,
and
get
give
rid of all
give
your
it to the
treasures
poor,
and so
poor
on and
people.
so on.
Poor.
But he didn't do that.
He didn't
Yeah.
do that.
He left
He just walked
Jesus.
away.
Yeah.
Then
It's so sad face,
sad
you know.
face. Then that's literally.
In that moment, that guy has no mentioned anymore in the Bible
That's
because of
literally
what
true.
his decision.
Even now.
But you know,
At least in my case, I know for a fact. In my case, I could sleep in a tent. I could sleep anywhere. I don't care where God puts me, as long as I can.
Like,
do something
like what your situation now. So you have no regrets at all?
Huh?
Like your situation now, that you, like before you get a salary for 64,000 a year.
Yeah,
you have a
I
big salary,
yeah.
and then your situation now. So you have
My
no regrets?
situation now, I have absolutely zero. I have no income, no nothing. But the thing of it is like I had mentioned, I'm living totally, completely, 1,000,000,000% by faith.
no regrets.
I have nothing, zero.
Seriously?
No income, no nothing. So, you know,
Then how can you feed yourself?
Huh?
How can you feed yourself? Like food, where did you get food? Like drink, water?
yeah, it's the first time in 16
living in Japan,
years.
there, no income. It's
Yeah.
It's hard.
the first time in 16 years that I've actually my whole life, I should say, that I ever went to a food bank. And I actually went to one 2 weeks ago, I think it was. But I was so embarrassed.
why?
Well, because I've never put myself in that position. I've never wanted to ever teach or to show my kids do this, because there's a lot of people that I have seen with my own two eyes in America that have lived this way day after day after day and haven't tried to do the right things. In other words, they were actually living off of everything that was given to them rather than trying to do other things for other people. So I'm the kind of type person that I've always believed that live millisecond to millisecond. Because trust me, and this is physically true. I have seen death so many times that I can't even count how many times I've actually looked at death in the face. But I'm still here.
Yeah.
But the thing of it is I don't want I don't want to teach anyone. It doesn't matter whether it's my kid, not my kid, my students, or anybody. Hey,
You can do this. You can be like this.
you have to try to live by faith.
Yeah.
Without faith, you have nothing.
Yes.
What do you have?
This is all about. Why we are living is all about.
You're just becoming like Putin.
Yeah.
Just wanting this and this and this and this, wanting this. Okay, well, I don't have Croatia today. Well, tomorrow I'll get this. I don't want to teach my kids or any child or anyone, any single person, to try to live that way. And then let's say you go back to the food bank again, then you're going to get the person going, oh, see that person's
You
back
again. You again.
And like even in America, like we have a welfare program.
Yeah.
I know from experience, my two sisters are experts at living off of welfare. And I've never, ever wanted to live that way. My father, that I have his name, he is not my biological father. But my mother, this is a true story, my mother was raped. She became pregnant from that rape. And during the 1960s in America, that would be automatic forced abortion. If she would have gone that option, I would not be here
So it's you.
today, yes. But the man she was dating loved her enough
To accept you.
that even though she was pregnant from
So
the
he
rape,
accepted you.
married her and accepted me.
Oh,
And-
that's good.
Adopted. Giving his name.
A good life.
but he taught me what love is. All of my kids,
So that's a good man.
I have adopted kids. I have other kids. I have even virtual.
So what you've seen your father, your stepfather. So you did also to your.
I looked up to him.
Yeah.
I loved what he stood for. I loved what he did when he was sent to Vietnam. I didn't like what happened to him when he came back, but same with my uncle. But your outlook shows your inside. And he showed me that just because a man could rape your wife or your girlfriend or your fiance or whatever, and even though that she may become pregnant from that, to still take care of that. There was a girl I dated, she was actually raped from her own father. But I didn't know that she was forced to have an abortion until she already had it. But if I would have known she was pregnant, there wouldn't have been anything
any
in this
abortion
world I
happening.
wouldn't have done to
Save that child.
keep that child. But
Well-
she didn't know my story, so she,
She feel insecure about it or ashamed of it.
yeah, the thing of it is, I found out later, he had been doing that same thing to her
Repeated.
sister. But at least I reported it to the right authorities and things got done, but,
What's done
You
is
know,
done.
sometimes we can't always look the other way.
Yeah.
And now, even in Japanese schools, like for 7 straight years, my kids went through abuse from their birth mother, doing this and this and this. In Japanese schools, up until 2014, always turned the other way. Looked the other way. They didn't care. So what I did was, in my opinion, a great thing in Japan. In 2014, I got the domestic laws changed when I went to the Supreme Court the first time. Because if I wouldn't have done that, the laws wouldn't have never
The
changed.
same. It will be the same. Kung dahil sa reklamo,
So now,
nabago yung
If
patakaran.
teachers see your
Batas
kids
na
with
yun.
bruises and things like that, they have to report it now, as of 2014. Then when I went back in 2016 to the Tokyo
sabihin,
Supreme Court,
kilala tang taon to talaga.
Parang,
then I made it prove that
Kilala siyang tao pero hindi
A
natin
man.
nakalain na ganun pala talaga siya.
that a man can do the
parang
same thing.
ordinary lang kasi, di ba?
Kilala siya sa US din dito. Kasi volunteer siya sa halos sa
Ang dami niya kasing ano.
volunteer siya dito sa
Oo.
buong Shizuoka.
Connection siya. Kanagawa, Kansai, Nagoya.
So my
So, if you don't mind, from everything that happened in your life, which one would you say is the worst?
The worst thing happened to you.
what?
From everything that happened in your life,
Yeah.
which one would you say is the worst thing that happened to you?
I think the worst was when I got dragged underneath a car in Hirosaki because I thought for sure my life was over.
What?
What
You
happened?
rush mo yan ka?
I was
Jumped
riding a
under.
bicycle and I was going actually through what should be like a crosswalk section. And my kids still laugh at this because this has happened 3 times to me, And the first guy was like 78 years old, 77 years old, and he ran completely over me. I mean, the bicycle and all, and I'm being dragged down the street. And in fact, I was on my way to work, and I'm screaming, "Stop! Stop! Stop!" The only thing that saved my life was the handlebars wrapped around the axle and stopped the car. If that bike would have been older and been more stronger,
Yeah. Maybe you're
I
already
would
dead.
not be here.
Yeah.
And the guy from the store even came out and tried yelling at the guy to stop him, but he wouldn't stop. Still kept driving. But the handlebars wrapped completely around the axle. And I thought 1,000,000,000% my life was over and gone.
Yeah.
But then the second time was the first one was from 77, the second one was 78-year-old man. That was here in Numazu, right near the bridge owned by Seven Haman Forest.
Yeah.
But I was lucky on that one. I was a little bit lucky because that bicycle was really antique old. I mean,
So-
made out of the old cast iron type.
So,
So it didn't go under the car like the first one did. So that one, he hit and he busted 3 of my ribs here and one punctured, you remember,
Yeah.
punctured my liver. So that was the second time. And the third time was here about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, right at Route 1 where Koitio is. You know where
Ichigo Sen.
Kojima Denki and Royal Host is.
Yeah.
That was a semi truck,
Yes, there's a lot of.
and I went. He hit the bike. I went. The bike, I don't know how it did, but the bike and everything fit perfectly right in between the tires. But I'm sitting there screaming, "Stop! Stop! Stop!" So he was like 79. So my kids were teasing me. They said probably the next one that'll
It's
kill you
80.
be 80.
77,
I told my kids, I said, don't say that.
What happened to you simply means that you have a mission, you have a purpose in life. That's why you're
There
still
is-
alive until now.
Yeah, there is.
You know, but the thing about it is, most people probably would have been chickened out and went home instead of going to work, or doing this or doing what they were supposed to do.
Well, I think you're the perfect example for the saying. You are the one, the guy that still walk and talks.
I mean, it's many things.
Because of many tragedies that happened to you.
My grandmother, the way she used to was, my grandmother used to say that I was a walking miracle.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
That's 100% yes.
And
That's 100% correct.
Because what happened to your skull?
no one has ever lived through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a
And
single
no one
human
could
has
restore
ever lived through it.
everything.
So-
But it's not only that, I was nearly cut in half of my back,
Backbone.
my left shoulder, my left hand. I still have the scar there. And, when I got caught in that propeller.
I'm sorry, like your brain is not affected for that one?
Huh?
Your brain? Like
What?
what happened to
Your
your
brain.
head?
Your
The,
memory.
the blade itself actually hit me in the skull first.
Mm.
Let me explain how it happened. I was repairing.
Yeah,
I
because-
used to be an airplane mechanic.
Mm.
I was repairing.
Yung mga trabaho niya, ano din, no?
I was repairing the side of the plane because the door wouldn't open. One of the baggage compartment doors wouldn't open.
Mm.
They had the GPU unit hooked into the plane. They always keep one side going, one blade going.
Mm.
And it was the left side of the propeller.
Mm.
And the baggage compartment was on the left side. But the tower, I had earplugs in my ears, but the tower usually lets us know when the 747s are taxiing out to the runways. So the 747 was taxiing out,
Mm.
and then I'm working on the plane trying to open the baggage compartment.
So
The
it
thrust
moved.
from the
thrust from
turbine.
the 474.
Yeah.
The thrust from that moved the
Yeah,
plane.
the
and
thrust
hit
from
you.
the 747 pushed me
Malas.
forward straight into the propeller of the plane, and I went in head first.
Mm.
It was all on video.
Oh yeah, that's it's recorded.
And the first blade caught me in the skull. Second blade caught me in the back. Spun me up to the top and threw me off like a rag doll, 15 feet away from the plane, and I
Oh.
landed on my back.
Na-imagine ko.
But the only thing I remember, my memory came back slowly, but at first I had no idea what happened. So, the only thing I remember is clocking in for work. That's the only thing I remember.
Ang naalala niya.
I only remember punching that time card, that's
Yun na
all.
lang naalala niya
Yun
yung
lang
timing niya.
Yeah,
After that, wala na siya maalala hanggang sa nung ma-aksidente na siya.
that's the only thing I remember. I
Yeah.
don't remember anything else.
I'm confusing that your memory still
Ito, cellphone mo.
it's
Yeah,
Well,
normal.
what the doctor said is that, throughout my lifetime, that my memories would come back little by little.
Ah, yeah, that's a good thing.
And, but at first, they had given me 0% chance.
Of living.
But
Yeah,
after,
because
after
it's-
I had miraculously survived,
Mm.
then they started giving a different prognosis. But I think that after seeing that angel or nurse or whatever she was,
Someone
I
who
don't know.
Remove
What,
did the catheter.
but yeah, she had long blonde hair all the way down.
Oh, it's a long blonde hair. So it's American.
Yeah,
It's American
I mean,
angel.
it's been since 1990, and I still
Caucasian angel.
remember. But nobody could find her. But
What is your age? What when?
I was 27 then.
27.
Yeah.
So
But the bad part, the worst part about it was, and please don't anyone laugh. If anyone laughs, I will slap you. I'll say that now.
someone does love.
I lost all of my teeth.
Oh?
All of my
Yung-
teeth.
Ano daw?
Yung ngipin daw yung gusto.
I lost all of my teeth, my upper and lower teeth. Not just my jaw. So all of my upper lower teeth, my nose, everything else was gone. But the plastic surgeon they had, he was there, I guess, for some kind of conference or something. He was the #1 plastic surgeon in the world.
Oh.
And that happened to be in St. Louis.
Yeah, because
Missouri.
when I look at you now, it looks like you have no you don't undergo operation, because you like you look like normal.
Natanggal
Yeah,
daw lahat ng
I know.
ngipin.
But
So I believe
he
that
saw
that's
the
a-
X-rays with his own eyes, so he knows it's real.
Mm.
He saw it with his own eyes.
Mm.
There's no reason to lie about it.
What
So
year is it?
what happened? Why your all teeth
Remove
was gone?
I have dentures.
dentures.
What year is it? Yung postizo.
I have
Oh.
dentures. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
grandpa and grandfather and grandma.
Oh yeah.
But that was the biggest trauma for me.
Kaya tinawag pag nagsasalita
That was the biggest,
Parang
but that was the biggest trauma for me, being 27 years old and losing my
Yeah, you're too
teeth.
young for that age.
Yeah. Oh,
And
so very
having
shy.
dentures on that
So-
on the early age.
27
They
years
didn't do
old.
that operation till like 3 or 4 months after. And
So, ibig sabihin, hindi na original yung ano yan.
O yung mapapansin mo pag musalita sa pasto, parang
but, you
parang
know, everything
size.
was in
What year?
ragged.
What year did that happen?
Missouri,
What year?
What
October
year?
1st, 1990.
1990.
Yeah. And you know, and then what made me angry was the airlines lied about it. They tried to make it sound like I was some stupid idiot that decided to take a walk into
Oh,
a
seriously?
propeller. I mean, you can take even somebody who
So
has
you have that thing happened has a video, right?
yes.
So it's recorded. So how come that the airline company?
But the airlines own the video, not the TV.
Oh
airlines. Not
Maybe
the
they
news,
can.
not the news media.
Mm.
So Air Midwest had put it out that I had.
Yeah.
They tried to make it sound like I was some stupid
Accident.
idiot that decided to go for a
Mm.
walk and just walk right into it. Then they tried to make it sound like, oh, he's gonna be a-okay.
But the point is, like every minute, every second, it's recorded, right? So
Of course.
yeah. So how come that they can tell that
FAA is not going to share that kind. The FAA can't even get
Mm.
video cameras that are at an airline.
even in the
The
emergency like
airline
that,
owns
like the worst thing
all
happened?
the media that's within their territory.
Pwede kasi yung taguin yun.
Mm.
Hindi tayo sa authority.
So the
So
airline company can hide that video, right?
The FAA has the right to find out the truth, but the FAA will not report the truth unless the
Yeah.
news media requests
So,
for it.
but the airline company pay you about that happened.
They did.
They
I mean, after I sued them, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Mm. So
They paid the
it's okay
hospital,
that
they
hide
paid all
they're
the-
hiding the video.
Yeah, they
but
paid the doctor fees, they paid everything.
They pay
else.
everything. They paid everything.
Yeah, but when I saw the bill I saw the medical bill for the surgery was $1.5 million. I was like,
Ah, it's big.
how in the world am I gonna pay this?
Yeah. So it's the company paying that.
Yeah,
bill.
they paid it all.
Mm.
But here's the funny part. The propellers on those type of jet streams are made out of titanium steel.
Mm. Titanium,
But when it hit my skull,
expensive.
this is the funny part. When it hit my skull, it
Got
damaged the propeller.
So,
Oh.
And the propeller cost 1.5 million. That's just for the propeller.
Yeah. Mm.
Mahal pa ng ano, titanium. Ang titanium ang mahal, no?
Ano kasi yan, Pastor? Parang,
Hindi ba naman siya pulso na sa normal ano?
ano yung Pastor? Hindi.
Ano po yan, isa na sa mga pinakamatigas
stainless?
na
Oh.
steel.
Stainless?
But
Steel
here's
po,
the
steel.
other.
This, bakal, Pastor, bakal.
Mas matibay pa sa release.
Mm.
Ano yan, pagpalagay natin sa tibay niya, di ba yung release? Pagpalagay natin mga 100 beses, mas matigas, pero mas magaan.
But here's the other thing that was miraculous about the whole thing. Even to me, to this day, it still
Yeah, what happened
makes
there is
shivers down my
a
spine.
miraculous thing.
I was only in the hospital for 10 days.
Oh,
Sa
10 days
mga
only?
ano lang.
Days. And when they released me, I had these
You
two.
bandage or...
Let me explain it first. I had these two drain plugs out of my skull, and I looked like Satan.
Yeah, because you know,
So, you know, and I had to live like that for I forget how long before he finally took those drain plugs out. But you know, and with the double vision, I had all the staples in my skull, and I kept running into the. I couldn't get out the door, so I would actually run into the walls. Man, that hurt. I mean, the pain was just excruciating. Then when I would try to learn how to wash the dishes, I was cutting my hands with the knives because I couldn't tell which one was real and which one was false. That made me even more frustrating. And
Yeah, because you don't know which is real.
yeah, but I mean, there was a lot of things I had to overcome. But when my students from the airline school, when they asked for me to come there to do the speech for their graduation, that was probably my biggest honor. I mean, as far as
Yeah.
when I went there, they asked me if I had any regrets, and I said, no, I have no regrets. I said, in fact, that the plastic surgeon made me look better than what I looked before. So, you
So
know,
it's good that it happened to me.
I'm not gonna whine and complain about that.
So you tell yourself, ah, it's good it happened to me because I look good than before.
You know, originally, you know, before he did the operation, I asked, well, how he was going to do it. I didn't know that they were going to use that as part of a movie. That
Yeah,
they did
yeah,
with
it's not
John
like a movie.
Travolta and
You will
I
be
forgot
your-
his name. Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas
Face
Cage.
Off.
Ah, yeah. The
That's
Ghost Rider,
where, that's
Ghost
where
Rider.
they got the idea
The
from.
face off.
Ah, face off, face
Face
off.
Off, yeah. But that's where they got the idea was from him.
Oh?
panood mo na yan, Face Off. Yung John Travolta was a policeman and Nicolas Cage is a gang leader.
Ah, para nano ko na.
Tapos, para mahuli yung
Yeah, but on that one they took his whole face
Whole
off,
face.
not
Oh.
partial. With me, they just cut this part and they did the full.
so they only pull and fold.
They pulled it, yeah, like a
Parang
folding,
ano ba yan,
folding
yung
letter. They
tawag dito
pulled
yung
it out.
maskara, gigaan.
Ang ginawa sa kanila pala, hindi buong mukha ang tinanggal.
And
Diba ito?
they
Kaya dito na nga,
reset,
sa harap.
Hinatak, tapos
they reset.
pinupil lang.
and they reset
So how the
my
skin,
left
how the
eye.
skin of your face removed? But
They used a
Hindi,
scalpel.
hindi.
They used a scalpel, of course.
I can't imagine.
So it's
I
very
saw the
easy.
video. It was an 18-hour operation. I got to see everything. So
Yun sir, yung ano sa, kuan, di ba?
Yung sa amin bro, yung sa press.
And they had to
Yung
reset
pag-press,
my eyes on some of
tumagmugong
them.
dito. Hindi siya inopera dito. Alam mo kung saan
I'm
dito.
legally
Ina-
blind in my left
Saka
eye.
kinuha yung bolt dito sa
At
loob.
2200
Tapos binalik
eyesight
naman
in my
yung,
left eye.
wala siyang scars dito, pero dito may, tapos hinila lang itong balat at pag ganun.
Yeah, they can do it from either way,
Yeah.
under or over. But,
One of
but
my-
back in the 1980s, but you gotta think about this. This happened October 1st, 1990. Back in those days, medical
Di
science
man-
did,
yeah.
this kind of medical
Did not,
science did not exist.
Oh.
It was the first time for this kind of operation to ever be done anywhere in the world. And on top of that, no man
So
has
so
ever
the one
lived.
who opened
And that was the funny thing that the FAA put in their report. It said no human being other than Baker has ever survived this type of action.
yeah. It's what happened to you is a good example that how God is.
Well, it shows you that there is a God. How can you deny
the-
it?
yeah. What I mean to say is that what happened to you is a good example that God is so miraculous, you know, like.
Well, that he still creates miracles now, even though that he
Yeah,
has
yeah,
been
yeah, yeah.
2,000
He
years,
could
he
still
still
perform
does it.
until now.
You know.
We could not deny that. because
And it
we
also
believe-
proves the same thing as like what they used to have up inside the
Yeah.
room.
What
Jesus
like?
is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Yes.
He doesn't change.
Yes.
But the other thing is too, I could have willingly sat in a chair for the rest of my life and collected all that money.
So
But
what
you
happened
did
to
not do that.
what I mean? What happened to it? You're not traumatized that? Like you're not undergo trauma? Like
What?
you're not in trauma that time? Like you? What happened to you?
Because some people did.
No, I didn't suffer any emotional trauma like most
Yeah.
people would have.
Yeah,
Because
most people they
they
have
need to
lost
see
their-
psychiatrists and other things. I didn't
What
need
happened
to see any of that.
No.
I was happy with how the doctor performed the operation. Hardest part for me, like I said, was when I went through physical therapy and they had to pull my jaw apart. That actually made me cry. The pain was so
The
bad.
pain.
And they asked me what, and the physical therapy, it even hurt the physical therapist doing it.
Magawas man atong English
And
ani.
I still remember her name. Her name was Janice Huff, and she wanted to stop, and she didn't want to do it anymore. She wanted to quit. And I said, no. My goal is for Big Mac, and so I wrote it down, Big Mac. And then she said, okay. So when I got to eat a Big Mac, then she stopped.
So what? How many months until you recover that kind of situation?
It took years to actually
Years.
physically recover. You know,
It's-
because ever since 1990, I sleep maybe a maximum, even if I take sleeping pills, I sleep at a maximum of 4 hours a day. Only 4 hours. I can't sleep any more than that.
Because you keep on thinking what.
No,
No, because the pain.
Nobody
Oh, it's
knows
not-
the reason. Because even if I take sleeping medications, it doesn't
You
matter if I
can't?
take 30 milligrams, I still can't sleep more than 4 hours.
Oh. Well, yeah, you can't explain that.
Nobody can.
It looked like that whatever happens on October 1st, 1990, it appears that it never happened in the internet. No record.
Oh,
no record.
Yeah, there's another
No-
thing.
no-
that, wait.
no records
There was
about it.
something else that I found out after, because I wrote in America to get the files
You need to get
under
a
the Freedom
testimony.
of Information Act. You can write and get
Any
request and get it.
Oh,
So I got my whole FAA files. I got all the file records from
Walang
all the
record.
different things.
Mhm.
Then I found out that this is exactly 7 years from where my accident happened. There was a 7-year-old girl from Guatemala that got her arm cut off. by propeller
Propeller.
by the same plane
Oh?
in the exact same spot. Figure that one out.
Pinalitan nilang
That
story.
was
Yeah.
shocking. When I got that information and read that, I was like,
So it's a different
Wow.
story. They changed the story. Like what happened, like
but
they keep on
I
hiding.
started doing more research and I found out this kind of thing happens to a lot of brand
A lot.
agents throughout all of America.
They black-
but they
they-
don't,
they
they
black
don't
out.
live, they die. But I'm the only living human to have ever lived.
From what happened.
Yeah, especially from being struck in the skull first.
Yeah,
You know, and what was bad was that when the bus driver, I guess that you would call it, that brings the people out to the planes, you know, when they saw the
Mahirap
accident,
kasi, di ba yung
They
propeller
thought
pag
my
ang
head
lakas
was
ng
gone.
ikot niyan, di ba?
they said they thought my head would be gone, so they just closed their eyes and didn't look. Because when I got blown, you know, I was blown from
Yeah.
747, so I was going super
Yung
fast.
persa ba?
Mm.
And I went into it head like Superman. I went
Hindi
into
kasi
the
aeroplano,
propeller
ano kasi
head
yan?
first.
Yung ano, di ba, pagka sumasakay tayo aeroplano, di ba nagtataxi? Ibig sabihin nagtataxi. Yung aeroplano,
Taxi.
sinabi nagtataxi.
The bus, yeah.
Umaano siya, pumipesto ba?
Oo.
Tapos pag pesto niyang ganyan, nandun na siya sa runway, pepersa na yan.
Oo.
Yung,
Iikot na yung mga ano.
Yeah, propeller planes are never parked near the terminals.
yun, ngayon, nung time na preparing for taxi na yung 747, yung malaki yung jumbo jet.
Oo.
Yung
They're
persa nun,
parked close to the
Kaya nga.
yung
Ayun,
persa
oh.
nun, yun ang tumulak dun sa,
Oo.
tumulak sa kanya. Na ano siya,
Ah,
lilipad
nasa
siya.
ano pala siya mismo ng ano?
Nasa
But
field.
because
Oh.
you have the engines running and stuff, you have the earplugs in your
Tapos,
ears.
hindi niya napansin yung warning ng tower.
So I couldn't hear the tower
Na
when they said the
may warning.
747 was coming out. So it was actually the tower's fault because they didn't tell me.
Yeah,
They didn't
yeah,
let
yeah.
me know that the plane was coming out.
Mm.
Otherwise, I would have stopped and we have a
Waited.
little bus that we all get
Kasi
inside.
bumibelta na yan eh. Paikot na.
Lakas
Yung persa nun, ano pa yun, jumbo jet yun. 747.
747s have a lot of power,
Mm.
even if they're in idle position.
So, sigurado ang layo
That is one
ng
of the
ano niya.
biggest aircraft build, right? 747. One of the
Yeah.
biggest.
They're the biggest in those days,
Economic
most powerful.
Commercial
But
plane.
the thing of it is that if I would have known, and this is the thing that got me when they wrote, when I finally was able to learn how to read and stuff, when I finally realized what they had said about me. You know, I'm talking about my own airline that I've been working for I don't know how long. Try to make it sound like I was some idiot that decided to take a stroll and just walk into it for no reason.
Yun ang
You
pinalabas
can put somebody from take somebody from a mental institution and put them out there. They have enough common sense to not walk into it.
Yeah.
So why would I?
Yeah.
So
Pinalabas,
that's why
pinalabas na
I
yun para
sued.
nas-
If they
sira
would
ulo.
not have put that in the newspaper and lied about how it happened, I probably
Yeah.
would not have sued them.
But they
But
never told
because
that.
they lied and made it sound like I was, because I knew my job was over, history. It wouldn't have mattered if I would have recovered and made 1,000,000,000% recovery, but because that one lie would have made me sound like a careless mechanic,
Yeah, yeah.
na siya ang ano, siya ang
and
mali.
nobody would have hired me.
Yeah.
So because of that one lie, that's the only reason
Kaya,
why I sued.
dinimanda.
It wasn't because of the recovery process,
It was
because I wanted my job back.
Bagay, tama nga
Who
naman.
wouldn't,
Pagka nabalitaan
you know?
na, halimbawa, ganun
Making
yung
Nangyari
$64,000
sa
a
kanya.
year.
binalita sa kanya,
Oo.
kasi
I was
nungalingan,
living like a
wala
king,
tatanggap
man.
sa
Oo,
kanya.
kaya nga yun.
Kaya
I
yun
was
lang ang
taking care
inilaban
of
niya
my
yung
sister
totoo.
at the same time.
Pero, tibay ano?
Oo.
But the funny part is, my
Millions of
sister,
dollars yung bill niya sa ano?
the funny
Sa
part
hospital
is,
lang.
Pero buti lang, binayaran ng company.
Mm.
But the funny part
But
is my
how,
sister.
How come that it went
Wait.
go public?
Funny part is my sister. She never, she was living in Michigan, but she never came to Missouri until 2 weeks before this accident happened to live with me. So it's kind of like God knew this was going to happen
And need someone
and had
to
someone
watch
to
over
help
you.
me.
Yeah.
So I never thought about that until, years
Happened.
later. I got to think, and even me and her were talking about that a few days ago. And God just put her in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Yung daw kapatid niya na hindi daw naging gawain na bisitahin
Pag hindi inaasahan ba na,
What were you gonna
na
ask?
pupunta sa kanya.
How come that it went it did went public?
Huh?
How come that it didn't went public,
It did go public.
but with
It
lies?
did. It was on every news station in all of the United States.
But
That's
you
how
guys
my
are the
family
first.
found out about it.
Ah.
The only phone call they made was to my mother. And what they said to my mother is exactly word for word, don't bother coming, he'll be dead before you get here. So she didn't go. Because she definitely didn't want to see me like that.
Yeah.
What mother
Yeah,
would?
it's hard for a mother to see you
And
like
what mother
that.
would, when you think about it, what mother would want to see their son like that?
Yeah. Maybe she keep on crying. Wow, what happened to you?
Yeah, but the other thing that I think back to, I know my family very well, and if they would have came, I would have had everything handed to me, and I wouldn't have had to get up off a chair or do anything. I'd probably still be in a wheelchair today.
You might not find your
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I understand these physical therapists now, that do get angry at their patients and do weird things and get their patients
just
to
to
do
do
Yeah,
things
yeah.
by themselves. I understand that now. Unless you go through things yourself, you don't really understand why they do what they do.
Yeah, it did that because for you to recover,
Yeah, and
para maka
but like
agad sa
my
iyong
grandmother
normal.
always
Meron kasi
called it
mga pasyente na mga mga physical
reverse
therapist
psychology.
na pagka alam nilang merong mga tao sa paligid nila na tutulong sa kanila, hinahayaan na lang nila. Ngayon yun sa ibig niya sabihin sa mga nangyari sa kanya. Kung halimbawa dumating yung mga kamag-anak niya doon at nakita niya nandun yung mga kasama pamilya niya, kung ba parang magpapaubaya siya na parang hindi na siya lalaban para sa sarili niya, para makabawi siya.
And the other thing is you always have to be listening for that very tiny small sound.
Yeah.
And it's like, like when all the doctors told this lady, oh, she's gonna die. All 6 doctors said 100% she's gonna die. She had double pneumonia, and both her lungs were completely full. And I went in there 3 times a day, told the funniest jokes I could think of on the planet. Let her laugh. It hurt her. I mean, she was in sheer pain, but she coughed it all up, and she lived, and she survived. And all of the doctors came to me, including the family members, asked me how I did it. Humor heals a lot of things. Getting past a lot of things. And my sister, I still remember her to this day, how she would tell the funniest things, even about how I looked at him, when I had those tubes.
You look like a Satan.
Yeah.
So, ang kadalasan pala nangyayari pagka napupuno ng substance yung baga. Napupuno ng substance. Ngayon, tama nga din, may sense din yung sinabi ko sa mga ganun. Na para protectionan yun. Simula dito, dito, taas hanggang dito sa may sense.
Tama nga sir. Yung corona, di ba dito din
Yung
sa
ano lang
throat
talaga.
ano.
Yung kung paano lang talaga makuha yung gamot.
But when you hear about these ladies that actually flip cars over when their children are inside the cars, you know, from sheer adrenaline, laughter does the same thing. It makes the body react and
Oh.
do things that it doesn't normally do. You know, so you release endorphins that completely help you ignore pain and help you
Yeah.
to heal.
Yeah. Like laughter is the best medicine.
Yeah.
Kaya nga sabi sa Bible, laughter is the best medicine.
You know, and then when I would see, when I was in the hospital room and I'd see like these patients that would be in, you know, next to me, and all the family members coming in there, oh, I see you feel bad, you know. They're doing the exact opposite, but they're making that patient feel worse than what he really, him or her really is. And so no wonder why they want to pass away. I would too. You know. But if somebody came in, you know, with a funny joke and said, hey, you know, what goes up and never comes down. Do you know? What goes up and never comes down.
What goes up?
What goes up and never comes down.
What?
I don't know.
Your age.
Yeah. Ba't ko sa tumataas yung edad ng pastor, hindi na bumababa.
So, you know, when you do things and get people to where they have to do two things, think
Think and laugh.
and laugh.
Yeah.
That does a lot better than to be saying, oh, you know, I know you're feeling bad, you know. Do you want me to get you some soup, you know?
Don't worry, we're gonna meet to the other side.
Yeah. So, you know, the students at the airline school too, they asked me if I had any help, and I said, not from my family members, but from my physical therapist, yes. But the physical therapists that I had were exceptional. And the physical therapists that I had 3 of them, but they were the funniest people on the planet. They never looked at me as
As a patient.
disabled or as
Oh, that's a good thing.
this or that. They looked at me like a human being, like that I can get back to a normal life. They didn't baby me, except for you know, I kept pushing myself every day.
So they don't treat you like a disabled person.
Yeah, but the other patients, the actual patients that were in the hospital were opposite. So why don't you just sit in that wheelchair, man? You can collect that money and, you know, have everything handed to you on a silver platter. And I'm like, nah, that's not me. That's not my kind of life. That isn't what I would call living. And I always promised myself one thing, sorry to be so straightforward about it, but I always promised myself if I ever ended up in a wheelchair, I'd put a gun to my head and pull the trigger.
Oh.
Me too.
And I meant that.
I don't want to experience things that I
Because you're
I
already
meant it,
disabled,
I
right?
meant
You
it, I
can
meant it.
yeah, you can't work proper. You can't work properly. You
Hindi,
can't.
pre, yung ibig sabihin ayaw niya, kung maaano man daw siya sa wheelchair,
Kaya nga.
mas gugusto,
Yung pagkamatay na lang siya.
And it was a vow
Kasi di ka na normal eh. Parang wala ka ng silbi.
it was a vow I had made, so, you know.
kahit ako, sabi ko nga, hindi ako tatanda ng 60.
But, you know, I was nearly cutting half of my back and,
Tanggap ko na hindi ako abot na 60 something.
Alam bang nakikita ko yung
relearning,
nakita ko yung mga bata kung paano sagot-sagutin yung mga
but to
tanda.
relearn everything
Parang
from
kakatakot
zero
tumanda na gano'n. Masasagot-sagutin ka ng mga bata.
to 27 in 2 years' time is what I did was miraculous because after that I put myself in college.
Oo.
I did this myself. I did everything myself. I went through college twice. And
After what happened to you?
and I graduated when I went into computer science, yeah, I graduated in 2 years' time.
Did you get a PhD?
Usually computer science is usually a four-year
Four
course.
course.
So I graduated in 2 years. Then I went through it again in 2005, and I graduated in 2 years. And so, after the funny part is after this accident happened, they always say if you lose something, you gain something,
May kape ka pa dyan?
No?
and that's true.
Puno na ako.
Okay ka lang, wala kang tulog.
Puno na.
They always say
Yun pala,
that,
ano na yan? Nayaw.
they always say that if you lose something, you
Ano
gain
yun?
something.
Kay dili ka abot ang saksakan
So
kay
I
sa
lost
kuan
my
kining.
eyesight, my left eye. I'm legally blind.
Kabuon
in
rin
my
siya.
left
Oh,
eye.
kabuon lang yan.
But for some weird reason, for now, I can remember numbers forever for the rest of my life. And I have a photographic memory. So now I remember everything I see. But the problem with that is if you remember it the wrong way, it sticks with
It
you
sticks
forever.
with your memory.
So it has good points and its bad points. But before this accident happened, I wouldn't have been able to
So,
remember
grabe,
anything.
no? Walang na-damage sa ano niya.
Kaya nga
Siguro
boss.
na-damage lang yung mga parts ng mga ano, pero how about the vision, the memory?
Yung vision niya pastor
But
na
your
ano
left
kasi
side,
may
your left side is your learning.
Pero parang
Bulag.
Yeah.
oh,
Bulag.
But it's a proven fact that you can actually use the right side of your brain.
Yeah, it's a proven fact. Left and
And
right.
because there's even people that's gone through what they call hemispherical operations where they've had the whole entire left side of their brain removed and yet can still do the same things every day.
yeah.
Our brains big.
But it proves the point, God's everywhere.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, this is the original
Wherever you are.
mechanics of our body.
Omnipresent, that means everywhere.
Quantum.
Wherever you are, whatever you do,
Quantum physics.
so God is still there.
Quantum physics existed in one place and the other place.
And then
Two places at a time.
when I got into the car accident in 1995, my son was in the hospital for 10 days, and he had a left thoracic duct torn. And then on me,
Kopi.
no more coffee.
No?
But on me, the vertebrae here was completely turned backwards. And so the doctor said I should have been instantly paralyzed, but for some reason I could still walk. So I ended up in 1995. In 1995, I went through 5 operations after that car
Kasi yung mga
accident.
nangyayari sa kanya ba, parang,
Halos magkakasunod eh, no?
In 1 year.
Mainit pa.
This is in 1 year I went through 5 operations. But from 1990 to now, I've been through 17 operations. Yeah. And then what was it, a year ago? 2 years ago?
2 years.
There was a cyst that was
Yeah,
found
I
inside
know,
my
year ago.
L4, L5 spine.
Dito sa likod.
The doctor said that if I didn't have an operation,
You
I
will
would
get
be paralyzed from here down. But yet I went to work at Eon.
I think it's a year ago. You sent a message to
10,000 to 15,000 kilograms of rice every day. Strong. But, you can't, I guess what I want to say is no matter what bad thing that happens in your life, you can't look at it as a negative.
Yeah.
oh,
You have to try to figure out some way how to explain things as a positive.
yeah.
Because if somebody, let's say you're going for a job interview,
That's why I always told to the church that any problem, any trials or difficult circumstances, it's all about how you
present yourself.
handle it and how you think you could think it positively or negatively, but you know the disadvantage and advantage. If you think positive, then it's a good advantage to you, and it help a lot of you. And if you think negative, then it's go miserable to your life. And
One
it's
thing
good.
I wondered is if I broke the world records for,
Yeah.
for the most operations.
Especially in operations.
Yeah, I've been through 17 of them.
I think you broke the 1 year 5 times operation.
Yeah, I had 5 operations 1 year. I'll never forget that because that was bad.
But if you don't mind, Brother Jim, how old are you now?
57. I already
57.
mentioned that earlier.
Are you?
57.
I didn't hear it.
So it's 30
57?
years from your skull.
57.
It happened. You're 27. You
Yeah,
like
30
50.
years ago.
yeah no. What I mean is
No, during your
it's
operation.
30 years ago that
Yeah,
you're.
I was 27.
Yeah, accident, during the accident.
You know, but
Even once you don't say to yourself that it's what happened to you don't.
I never looked at things
Not negative?
in a negative way. No, I've always felt that
There's a reason behind this. There's a purpose of what happened.
well, yeah, I've always felt that there was a reason for things happening, and maybe, you know, because I actually ended up creating a law that made it safer for ramp agents and for mechanics and for other things. So because of what I did, because I not only sued the airlines, I also ended up doing, I went to Congress and to everywhere else and to try to get things in a more safer mode. For example, they used to keep one engine running all the time to make things, because they said it would keep things moving faster. But when they shut down both engines, actually it only creates a 7-minute difference. What, 7 minutes compared to a human life? You know, or a child's life for that matter, like what happened 7 years ago exactly to mine from a Guatemala girl. You know, the point is I've always been one to not be afraid of taking things all the way to the very top courts. Like for example, like what happened with Eon. I went through domestic violence there, and then on November 28th, when I got choked physically inside the factory in front of cameras, you know.
You got choking.
Yeah, my boss choked me inside the factory on video camera. But my Hawken, my temporary staff agent, the 11 months that I worked there, never did anything to help me or protect me. And I went through this for 11 months straight. And then I went to Susano Police Department.
You don't complain
I had no one else to go to.
You didn't complain to the police or any legal.
I called the police. I went to the police station and reported it to the police. And then the temporary staff they're weird. On December 16th, they tried to fire me. I'm like, why? So they laid out these 6 different bogus reasons as to why they were going to fire me. So I'm like, okay, where's your proof? Please give it to me. They wouldn't. So then I said, in that case, then I guess we'll go through courts. So all the labor standard offices from Mishima and from Shizuoka and from Kanagawa and Tokyo, they're all investigating the temporary staff agency that I work for because they're from Kanagawa. And they're also investigating Eon because it happened on Eon premises inside the factory on video that even the top president from Tokai Max Value Hamamatsu, he said he saw it. He saw it happen. But he didn't fire the man because here in Japan, Omanasai goes a long ways. If you say sorry, gomenasai.
Hi.
They usually forget the whole thing. And they
Yeah.
keep the workers.
Yeah.
But I'm different than that. I don't accept everything. So then, you know, they still never provided me with proof. Then I knew they weren't going to pay my last salary. And that's what they didn't do. So I was supposed to be paid on December 30th. Never got it. Never got the proof that they fired me, which is the paper called the Lee Shoku Hyo. Never got the severance pay. So I'm going to have to go through the courts again. And like I told Haken, the temporary staff agency, and Eon, I'm not afraid to take this all the way to the Tokyo Supreme Court. I've already been there, so twice already, and I'm not afraid to go. So, you know, my thing is this. If you fired me,
Yeah.
please give me the Lee Shoku Hyo severance pay and my full salary.
That's it.
That's all I want, you know, and that'll drop the whole thing.
Yeah.
But they didn't. So instead, I'm letting labor standards offices then investigate, and probably what'll happen is they'll shut that company down.
Yes.
But by Japanese law, they only need to shut down for 4 hours and reopen in a new name. That's what Eon did. That's exactly what Eon did, because there was a coworker, he got both his hands burned, 2nd degree, and he was going to sue the company. So
Until now, that law still exists?
on July, it still exists. On July 31st, they shut down for 4 hours.
4 hours only?
Yeah, they used to be Ishida Foods. Then they changed it to Tokai Max Value
Ah!
on August.
So the name of the store or
So that stops the lawsuits, because Ishida Foods no longer exists.
yeah. So they changed the name, the brand name.
I think it's...
And it stops everything. So even
Para
if
wala
you
na-
go
So
after them,
they changed it because it again from you.
Hindi. Ano, yung, kasi diba, ididemanda yung,
Yung,
diba,
yung company nga,
Ididemanda yung company. What he was suing was the name of the company. So they changed the name of the company to
Max value.
Tokai Max Value. So the case stopped because Yoshida.
see, he
doesn't
wasn't
have-
suing his Haken, his temporary staff agency. He was suing Eon.
It's
So-
a loophole.
Yeah, it's a loophole in Japan. Even if you go after them for the pension, like when I was working with Flick, I worked with Flick English School for 6 years straight. Even on my receipts, it said on paper it says they pay these things, but in reality, when I went to Numazu, to Hello
Yes,
Work Labor Standards Office,
They didn't.
I found out they didn't. They didn't pay 1 penny. So then I filed the complaints, and they forced them to pay only. This was the weird part. Only 2 years
2 years of the code.
out of the 6 years that I've been working here. I'm like, what's this? You know. And then when I went after them for the pension, they said don't be surprised once you sign this your name on there.
Yeah,
we're gonna
because
fire you and get rid of you.
they put the
And that's
signature
exactly what
there.
happened.
So
You know.
before you sign,
Japan has loopholes for every
lot.
situation.
a lot.
Oh, may mga ganyan pala
Too many.
talaga
A lot.
dito, no?
A lot. Kaya nga pag halimbawa, di ba may mga problema kayo sa Nenkin,
Oh.
sa
Yung mga taxes, mga ano.
sa resident tax, there's always a loophole.
Yeah, and the other thing is too, you know, if they say sorry,
So-
apology goes a long ways. You can't do anything to them.
Hirap niyan.
So like,
Pag
so for
magsuri ka ng
example,
ano, wala na
example,
yung
when
ano.
listen,
May
when
ano dyan.
Susanoo police went in to Eon and saw that on video, they saw it with their own eyes. Now in America, they would have arrested Takahashi and put him in jail. But in Japan, because he said
Said
sorry and
Accepted.
apologized, they walked away. They
Oh.
did nothing.
But when you say sorry,
But it's kind of backwards here. So the person that has all the power is actually the Labor Standards Office, not the police.
Mhm.
They have the power to shut the company down
Not the police.
for a period of time, not just 4 hours. So I will go to trial again.
May, may,
Meron din sa
saan
ano
naman,
pala.
halimbawa sa
And they
trabaho,
will get my severance pay and they will get my
halimbawa sa
leave.
trabaho, ganun.
They'll
Pero
give them
sa
14
mga
days.
medical malpractice dito sa Japan, once na na-record mo, na halimbawa
Yeah, there's no
nagkamali,
medical malpractice in Japan.
pagka nagkamali dito, pagka na-record mo na nag-sorry sa yung doktor, napakalaking laban mo. Yung,
Yeah, that's when
yung,
they cut the leg off the wrong lady. Yeah,
Da-
I remember
Ibig
that.
sabihin, may mali talaga siya.
yung pag-sorry lang niya, umamin siya ng sorry.
So.
Na, gumina sa matsigaytan desu kedo.
Roman
Sorry wa. Pag na-record mo yun at nagreklamo ka, if you start suing them,
It's a big
You-
evidence.
it's a big evidence that they say
It
sorry.
means everything.
They admit
Yeah,
they
but
wrong.
admitted that he has a fault for
That-
that one.
That day, that time that you present that evidence, they gonna lose their license.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's no such thing as medical malpractice here.
Not in Japan. There's even like in Osaka when they cut the wrong leg off a woman, they specifically cut the wrong leg off.
Mali
And
yung
yet
pinutol
the
na paa.
family couldn't do anything because, you know, the man apologized and also he paid what's called gomenasai money. And
Oh.
Nanseng
That was it.
mang.
that was the end of it.
So there's no
There's no
walang kaso.
malpractice.
No, walang
There's
walang
no
kaso.
case?
Pero pagka pumayag,
If
pag
you
pumayag
get
ka dun
sheriff
sa ano,
pregnant and your child comes
babayaran
out,
ka din.
It's
Then you
Babayaran
can't
ka.
do nothing.
parang areglo yun.
Areglo, babayaran ka. Pag pumayag ka dun sa areglo nila, nahakumang, nahansay mang. Once that you agree up on it,
Then the
case closed.
Yeah. So that's why you should automatically go through what's called the labor relations rather than trying to go
Sue
through the
them.
courts. So the labor relations is a
nagkakaroon sila ng
government
negotiation.
agency, and they are a government agency, and they have more power than even the courts do.
They're gonna start some negotiation.
Di ba sa atin sa Pinas mas ano
It's
yung
kind of
korte
like a
ng
Saiban show, but it's a little
Mm.
bit different. Saiban show you can only do civil suits.
Mm.
But with labor relations, you can do everything.
Everything.
They handle all aspects.
That's a good thing. That's if someone's new about the
But
Japanese
when
rules.
somebody's new come to Japan, they think that police, they think like I do. Like in America, we think police have all the power.
The same in the Philippines.
But in
Dahil
Japan,
dito, iba pa rin.
police do not have the power. They're the last.
Hindi sila hindi
So
nila
like
sakop
what the
lahat.
police explained to me was, they said, first
Kung
you
kailangan,
go
punta ka dun.
through,
Punta ka dyan. Punta ka dun.
first they have to do an internal investigation. That means the company investigates themselves first. And second, the labor relations.
Kasi dito bitso-bitso kasi, no?
So about that, everything's better. And then on the third, then the police gets involved because they get the report from the company and from labor relations. Then they proceed with the case.
Sayang.
Then they decide if they should give it to the prosecutor. Then the prosecutor will make the decision on the fourth time whether he or she will go to court. But that's why Japan has a 99.9% conviction rate. Because
Kasi
they do
yung
everything
sinisigurado
by
nila.
better.
In the process. First you go to
Taga-kolekta na lang dito yung police.
But
Kaya
inside
ano?
the company, there's a small, like a Saiban show, you know.
Well, they have what's called customer support service. They have a complaint service that you can complain to, but
But
usually
there's-
nothing ever.
It's usually
not,
one-sided.
nothing never gets
What's-
done.
it's
What's it
usually
called?
one-sided.
Ako, under ako nung ano eh.
That's why I went directly to the
Ano
president.
sa atin yan, sa mga kumpanya,
Alin?
sa kumpanya sa Pilipinas meron
I knew
samahan.
better than to mess with them.
Yung mga ano,
So,
yung
so
tawag dito, mapra, yung mga ganun.
Parang onion.
Onion, yung mga ganun.
The same thing here in
But-
Japan. There is a
but-
union in a company.
in all factories in Japan, you have a special thing that you can go through, but 99% of employees are through Hawkins, which are called temporary staff.
Yeah.
All of the
It's a
offices will
contractor.
tell you within 3 seconds, call your Hawken agent.
Yeah.
Ah.
Whatever happens to you, Haken.
That's between you and the
And the
Hawken.
Hawken.
The
But
company,
that's the sad
that's
thing.
how they cut themselves out of the,
That's
Yeah,
the,
that's
whatever
how they
happens.
protect
that's the
themselves.
sad thing here in Japan.
And that's what
Because
happened to me,
if-
because I'm a temporary staff agent.
Yeah.
But my contract is a lifetime contract.
Yeah.
So
with-
when they
with the
tried to
Hawken.
offer me 180,000 yen to write a paper out, say I quit, I laughed. I said, that's a joke.
Bale, ang nangyayari.
You're 100%
Bali-
employee in a Haken.
Ba-
Not
No,
in the
they're
company.
supposed to, by law, they're supposed to give you the last salary and the severance pay.
Mm.
But if the severance pay can be anywhere between 3 months and 9 months.
Ano yun?
Mm-mm.
Pagka
But
yung
I have a lifetime
Kailangan-
contract, which means I would have made 17
ikaw ang
million.
pagka ikaw ang nagyamero, which has a penalty.
Yeah, may penalty ka sa akin.
But pagka
Pag ang Haken or
Pag-
Kinobe.
they
It depends on the
Pardon.
length of the contract. So
but
mine is a lifetime.
Usually, if you are in a Haken, it's a lifetime contract.
And mine's a lifetime contract, so which means I could have made $17 million, 17 million yen by the time I retire.
Mm.
But the max payout on the severance pay is only 9
Nine.
months. That is the max payout. So
Sa
that would be
koyo yun.
180,000 yen times 9.
Yan po yung koyo. Kasi yung sinasabi.
But once you spend it, you're done, you know.
Bale, ang gusto niya mangyari, ang niyahabol niya is yung
Bigyan siya nung
ano siya,
Dimension.
endless contract kasi. Endless
So
contract.
then,
Ang,
So
pang lifetime na
gusto
yung ano niya.
Ang gusto niya.
yeah, but then after
Nakakapagtrabaho pa siya.
the labor law does everything that they do, if you get a lawyer, then you can sue the actual company. He owns a big, huge, monster-sized company,
Yeah, it's
and
a
you
big
can
group.
sue them and get monthly payments for the rest of your life
Yes, you could.
if you get a good enough lawyer and you
Yeah.
have enough evidence to prove. But you would, because you would have the evidence from their video cameras, the
Camera.
evidence from their internal investigation, the evidence
Plus-
from labor relations, as well as the evidence
Plus-
from the police.
Plus your contract with the Haken.
Then the lawyer could take all 4 parts, even though it's betsu, it's 4 parts, take it to the courts, civil courts.
Ang hirap kasi ang dami mong pupuntahan.
Hindi naman isa lang naman halos
Depends
yung
the difficult
pupuntahan.
country to live in, but if you don't understand the laws, the rules,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
regulations,
That's the hard part because many
most
many
of them,
foreigners-
like
the
the man that got
beginners.
his hand burned, Pudu, when he got both his hands burned 2nd degree. He's from
It's
Sri
like-
Lanka.
Okay lang ko yun, yung kay Mrs. Mo, it's like
Ay, oh,
happened to
it's like his wife. It happened also like he got a second degree burn.
Born.
Oh, really?
But
But
you
the
know,
thing is that they did not do anything for that.
and
But
even the
the
salary.
point I'm getting at is when he had the 2nd degree burns, he was going to sue Eon with a lawyer,
Hmm.
But Eon, what they decided to do,
Just
because it was
change the
called
name.
Ishida Foods, they closed it down for 4 hours.
Yeah.
Then change
Yan
the
lang yung
name.
mahirap, no?
Then
Kasi,
change the name,
That stopped everything.
then the case is over.
so they will not pay for that one?
No.
Oh, yun nga yung mahirap, Pastor, kasi i-ano nga nila, pero 4 hours lang, tapos pwede niya palitan nila yung ano, dito lang na,
That is the
ipafile mo
rule.
talaga.
They only have to shut down for 4 hours only. Only.
Yan
And
lang,
then they
mahirap
can
na.
reopen
Kaya kahit ka
a new
mag,
name because it's under a new registration,
Yeah.
new management.
you can get
Mm.
another.
So you can start to,
Even though you have the same people working for you,
yeah.
it's still considered a new management.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
Under the new name of company.
But if his wife was second degree burns, now the thing about it is what he can do is get a civil lawyer that handles civil suits and sue civilly in court. Trying to do.
And his wife happened in the premises, the factory.
Well, then he should report
Inside
it
the
to
premises.
labor relations first. Let them do the investigation. It'll take a long time. So let them do the investigation, then get the civil lawyer. Because the civil lawyer will be able to get all the evidence from the police and from the
Company.
labor
Yung lawyer pa,
relations
so
and
pareha
from
ba
the
nung
company.
lawyer sa Pinas yung libre lang yung
Do-
You do
Ay,
that
meron
last.
Yeah,
You
diba?
do the lawyer part last. You
Kailangan
never
puro
do
ka
that first.
okay.
You go
so
to the
hindi na
labor
pa.
relations, you live here, so you go through Shizuoka labor relations. They speak English.
May Tagalog dito.
And yeah, they speak like 7 or 8 different
Tagalog,
languages.
Spanish.
Yeah.
So after investigation, so the
But
last.
the labor relations, see, what people fail to realize is they're the law of the land here in Japan. They have more power than the
Yeah,
police
yeah.
do.
That's a sad thing.
And even the last
But
Kaya
you know, like with
maganda
labor
doon ka mag-
relations,
ano,
what they
susunod.
did to
Sa
Nova, the
labor.
old Nova English schools, they shut them completely down. 50,000 teachers were without jobs because of what the owner Sasaki had did. He spent all their money. He bought boats.
Yung
Limousine.
yung ano yung 700
He even had a suite in his own office.
na nasing mang na balita.
Toilet is where.
over
Ay.
But if his wife had second degree burns, that's what I would do. Is I would go through the labor relations.
Ito lang labor.
Diyan sa receipt yun.
They have the number one most power.
Ito yung kato.
And Mishima has labor
Oh.
relations too.
Here at the back of the Itoyokado, there's a labor
Mishima
relations.
office. Yeah.
Yeah, dito lang sa likod.
I would go there.
Dito lang sa likod ng
Meron dyan?
Oh.
Ano yun? Iba pang yung
Labor
at
yun,
saka
babe.
labor, magkaiba.
Iba pa yung labor kaysa dun sa ano work. Ito mga
Sa ito yung kado, ano yun?
yun mismo yung labor.
Ano yung
Iba yung hino-work pala?
Iba pa yun. Iba pa
yung
yung
binabayaran ng tax ng makuruma dyan, ng building dyan, hindi yan.
Iba po yun.
Ay ba? Saan ba na yung labor?
Dito lang sa likod yun eh. Sa likod ng Itoyokado. Yung talaga yung mismong labor.
May gym.
Pero yung mga ganyan, yung mga pumunta siguro dyan, yung mga high cases na talaga, yung hindi
Hindi, kahit hindi. Basta related
About
sa trabaho.
labor.
Oh?
Labor. Dito kasi sa Hallwork, ano to eh. Ang sakop nila is yung koyo lang.
Magbigay ng
Insurance, yung labor insurance.
Ganun ba?
Yun lang ang sakop nila dyan. Tapos yun lang kasi dito sa Japan kasi, different cases, different agencies.
Kaya nga.
Kung ba sa trabaho, ikaw dyan. Ito sa mga pension, ikaw dyan.
Kaya nga, bits-bits.
Tama yung sinasabi niya sa labor.
The labor relations department here though in Namada doesn't have an English speaker. But the one in Mishima does.
Where in Mishima?
Mishima?
Right at Hello Work on the 3rd floor. That's the only place I go to.
Kasi daw pala meron nga dito labor, kaso nga lang,
English.
walang
English.
English.
Ang
Puro daw sa
translator.
Mishima may English. May Tagalog.
Namazo is useless. I went to Namazo and I don't even mess with them. Namazo
Sa
is
may,
about as
sa
useless
may,
as can
ano
be,
daw,
but the one in Mishima has helped me more than any of them.
sa may Mishima daw, sa may Hallwork sa Mishima. Hallwork
Yung
sa
Mishima, na pa so, mga 20 minutes lang. Then,
But
No,
if my
Yeah.
Hakan would have been here in Shizuoka Prefecture, Mishima would have gotten my money within 14 days, but Kanagawa is a little slower.
Yeah. Sa taga Kanagawa pala yung ano niya.
Haking kasya.
But by law, anytime you're fired, you're supposed to get your salary within 7 days, and
That's the
you
law.
get your Leo Shusho plus your severance pay.
Yeah.
And they did neither.
That's what I'm always.
So what they're going to do is they're probably going to end up shutting that company down. And I found out before that IHS staff, there were 2 people that worked for them before
with the same
that killed
same
themselves. Committed
Suicide.
karose, suicide from over.
Harakiri? Jangan?
Yeah, when I was working at Eon,
Harakiri.
when I was working at Eon,
Bigti.
I had no days off. I worked overtime. They didn't pay my overtime from July to November. They didn't pay and this was the other thing I found out last Friday on the 25th. They hadn't paid my city tax or Ken tax for 6 months. So they've been stealing my money big time.
You know what? From this conversation, from this group, what I've learned, I thought my life is shit. I feel so lucky that whatever happens to you didn't happen to me, because if what happens to you happens to me,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can
Whoa.
I can take it. I don't know if I can
Yeah.
do like what
Like
you
what
did.
you've done.
So at first I thought that I was so unlucky. My life is shit. I don't like what happening to my life now. But thanks to your story, thanks to what
Yeah,
you,
that's
what
that.
you said, everything that happened to you, I feel so blessed. I feel lucky.
It didn't happen to him.
Because if
What
if,
happened to you,
if
it didn't
those
happen
things
to you.
happened to me, I don't know if I would still be here.
My prayer has always been one thing, as far as for me, is to try to carry other people's burdens.
Oh.
And because I often feel that most people wouldn't be able to, probably even my own kids wouldn't even be able to survive things that I've been through in my life.
Yeah.
And to be able to walk away and still smile about it,
Yeah.
Or,
Well,
like the guy that choked me to death and I laughed right in his face.
You're a strong guy.
That made him mad.
You're a strong guy.
But most people probably would have ended up punching the guy and beating the guy half to
I
death.
would. I would.
My best friend said he would have done the same thing. And
would.
I'm like, well,
100%
I knew it was
I
on camera, on video, so the thing I did was point it to my neck and I dared him to do it again, because if he would have done it again a second time, that would have been it.
That's another thing.
Yeah, but Jesus,
It will be
he
worse
turned
thing.
only one cheek. He didn't say both. So the thing of it is, I knew things were being recorded, and I knew that the audio and everything else, and I knew that if, in the long run, it'll pay off.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the question is how long can I live this way?
Yeah.
That's the question.
But I feel that God will help me find a better, safer job. But like I said, like what
Patience.
my best friend said to me, maybe what I did was save other people's lives by stopping this.
Yes.
The abusive domestic
I
violence that was going on inside the factory. Maybe I've saved someone's life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not someone.
Because,
That's
I
you.
went through this for 11 months straight, so no telling how long this had been going on before I even got there. Maybe it's been going on for years.
Maybe.
I would assume so, because Japanese usually don't change. They don't change under any circumstance.
Like, don't what do you say? Don't get me wrong. So you live alone now?
No, I still have a 13-year-old daughter yet to raise.
No, what I mean is you're together with your 13-year-old daughter?
Huh?
You live together with your 13-year-old daughter?
My 13-year-old daughter, yeah, we live together during her breaks from school, but when she's during school year and things like that, then she's at her school. Because my kids went through very severe trauma, domestic violence.
Especially
I put my kids in the safest schools I possibly can. where they're protected.
special
And I
school
want to make sure it's never going to happen again.
Mm.
I don't trust Japanese.
anymore.
I don't trust their laws. I don't trust their ways. I don't trust anything
Well, if you come
about anything. It's
if
a
you come
goofy,
to
it's a
think of it.
goofy society.
if you come to think of it, Japanese law has so many loopholes. You-
There's way too many loopholes.
Way too many.
And
You can run almost everything.
you know what's funny though? But here's